right. So Vic, I want to know about Victory Grips. Obviously, you guys are one of the big names in the CrossFit space, and I want to hear about how you guys started because it seems like a very interesting story from what I've seen, but I want to hear it from you. So tell me a little bit about how Victory Grips came to be.
Yeah, it's been quite a journey, and it's Victory Grips is a combination of the various experiences and education that I have. Growing up, the sport I identified most with was gymnastics. That was my favorite sport. I played other sports, baseball, soccer, but gymnastics was the one sport that I really enjoyed a whole lot. And competed for a while when I realized that it wasn't going to the Olympics and had a choice to go to college for it or not. I ended up not continuing competing, and then ended up performing as an acrobat, like for Disney and various shows. But my undergrad's in the exercise sciences, and I also have a master's from the Savannah College of Art and Design and Design Management. But I've always worked in the fitness industry. I was from the time I was 16, all throughout college, being a trainer, and then out of college, I was a trainer as well, where I found where a friend of mine, a fellow trainer, introduced me to CrossFit, as any fitness enthusiast would eventually find, and absolutely just fell in love with CrossFit because of the gymnastics component, and just it was very exciting to find a sport that I could display or utilize my gymnastics skills, and then compete again, and it was a natural progression to go and start an affiliate. And I started an affiliate with that fellow trainer who got me into CrossFit. It was a natural progression for both mine and his career in the fitness industry. And during that time of that ownership of the affiliate, there was CrossFit Identity in Atlanta. And it was during that time that I conceptualized the idea for the grips. So it was an interesting story because at the time I was living with a buddy of mine from grad school, another designer. He was an industrial designer and furniture designer, and so we would hang out on our back deck and drink bourbon and have creative sessions. And so it was through one of those creative sessions over bourbon that I conceptualized the idea with him. And the whole premise was to take gymnastics grips and have them be redesigned and function just like they would in gymnastics, but be designed specifically for the demands of CrossFit, so that they could work seamlessly within the multimodality skills of the sport. So whether you could go from a gymnastics movement on the pull-up bar or rings directly into a barbell movement, the handstand walking, and those grips are designed so that you could go from one movement to the other without wasting time and without them being distracted. But still being able to function like true gymnastics grips would. With gymnastics grips, they have a dowel, and that's a little cylinder that goes right under the fingers. That is part of the grips, and that's essential for helping gymnasts hold on to the bar during those big release moves and those big giant swings, which are the full evolution of a swing around a high bar or a woman's uneven bar. But that dowel is illegal in CrossFit because you can't have anything that gives you an artificial competitive edge, and that was deemed to do so. But I designed the grips that have a proper length so that you still get that what we call the dowel effect, and so you're getting the high performance of the performance enhancement of being able to grip more efficiently and increase your power instantaneously by using the grips, but also giving you protection. So it's protection and performance. So I did research and development over the course of about 3 or so years before launching the company, because I used my CrossFit affiliate as a lab, as this living lab where I would design and I would play with them in my workouts. And when I thought that they were good enough, that I wanted other people to try, I would have my members try them. I was always constantly asking my members if I could look at their hands and measure them, and did a big anthropometric study to kind of understand finger lengths, to the palm length ratio, to height ratios and widths. And then I would then give them to the members and be like, hey, try this, tell me what you think. And then they liked it. And then they were like, hey, I wouldn't mind buying them, off you. So I would just take some money just to cover costs, just to, the fuel. It was more of a hobby, more of just a passionate kind of fun thing to do, to design and tweak. And then it got to the point where I was actually thinking, wow, this could have legs, this could have leverage in the market, and may have some appeal. So at that time, it just so happened that there was a sport called Grid, the NPGL, National Pro Grid League. And that was a sport, that was a spectator sport that was stemmed from CrossFit. If anybody is an OG in the sport, they'll remember Tony Budding, who used to be the media director for CrossFit. And he conceptualized this idea and then went off on his own to start this sport. And so that sport, what was unique is it allowed, every team had to have a 40 plus athlete, master's athlete, male and female on every team. And you could specialize. So you could be a barbell specialist, you could be a gymnastics specialist. And so I fulfilled that master's male role and being a gymnastics specialist. So that was a unique position for me to actually get to compete with some of these really well-known athletes with my skill level. I would have never been able to go, to the games. I was older, and being a gymnast, I didn't have the engine or the barbell background to be a utility player and to make it to the game. So it gave me an opportunity to hang out with and be on teams with some of these greats. So it just so happens that I was on a team right off the bat, the New York Rhinos, and Annie Thorisdottir was on the team. Mat Fraser was on the team. Easy Muhammad, Chelsea Hughes. And then I rode the pine behind Ron Matthews, the great Ron Matthews, Masters athlete. And then got traded to the next season, got traded to the Phoenix Rise, where I was on a team with Marcus Philly, Danny Nichols, Bjork Odensdottir, Amanda Goodman, and some of these OGs of the sport that were just really big names at the time. And some of them are obviously still big names. And so that gave me exposure to those athletes. And I would, show them, I'm like, hey, you got to try these things. And then some of those athletes became my sponsor, they gave me exposure to them. They helped me give me some leverage. And then some of them became our first sponsored athletes. Emily Bridgers was our first sponsored athlete. Then we had Marcus Philly, Easy Muhammad, and Bjork Odensdottir were officially sponsored. I couldn't afford Annie Thorisdottir, but fortunately she has been using the grips ever since. She's just a big fan, or a big user of the grips, and we're very honored to still have her on our roster because she's still absolutely amazing, inside and out as an athlete. This past year was epic for her. So it was very exciting to be on the hands of some of these great athletes, and now being the company that we are, it's been a true journey. It's been a lot of fun to be able to go from to just a participant of the sport to an affiliate owner to now a company that supports that still supports the CrossFit community. So it's been a heck of a lot of fun, to do.
Yeah, that's fascinating. And I didn't even know about that backstory about how you kind of, work with those OGs of the sport. So really interesting. So tell me, when you were in your affiliate and giving your members different grips to try out, how many iterations do you think you went through before you were like, okay, I figured it out?
Gosh, a lot. A lot, man. I mean, I started from the get-go. I took garden gloves. I literally took garden gloves from Home Depot, bought a bunch of gloves and cut them up into various shapes, and it was a way to just rapidly prototype. So, and then various materials, and I was just doing everything and anything just to play around with it, but numerous iterations. Numerous, and those iterations have not stopped. It's a continuous. To me, this is an ongoing project. It's not like I just designed it and it's like, oh, this is good enough, and we're done. So those iterations are still being developed. I just came out with a new design called the 3-finger full coverage, the 3FC, which is a more stable, higher performing grip in terms of the design. It doesn't twist as much. It allows a little bit more protection, while it protects like a 4-finger, but having a more that minimalist, like a 3-finger. So that's our latest design. And then we have the different materials, because I learned that this game is about just as much about the design, the shape of it, as it is about the materials that it's made out of. And there's various different bar types. You got powder coated bars, you got bare steel or spiel bars. You have different tactile preferences amongst people. Some people want softer and thicker. Some people need thinner grips, and some people like the grips to slide a little bit more. Some grips you want to feel like glue against the bar. So we have various different materials, different designs, and we're constantly improving the materials and the design as we come up with them and listen to customers. That's the biggest thing, is listening to people within the sport. Doesn't matter what level. I mean, you could be the top and, a games athlete. They have a different point of view from people that are your regular everyday gym member, who are maybe just getting into the sport. And everybody's input is equally as important. And I'm constantly listening and reaching out to people. I make sure I have a personal interaction on a day-to-day basis with customers, and going through customer service issues and working things out, because I feel like it's all important information to continue to improve the product. Because just like athletes, you're always working on your weaknesses. You're always looking at, okay, how can I compete better? How can I be stronger in this area? And I take that same ethos of competing as I do with the grips, because this is my way of competing, and it's my way of helping athletes compete at a much higher level.
Yeah. One of the things that's really always impressed me with your company and the way you guys do business is your customer service. If I can tell a little story. So I've been using Victory grips for now probably 4 or 5 years. And there was one time when I ordered a pair, and after about a use, just one of the strings ripped, and it ripped. Well, I ended up emailing you guys, and within maybe like a day, I had a new pair in my mailbox. And that really impressed me about just how you guys care about the people that use your product. So tell me, why is that? Because you don't get that from every company.
Yeah, well, we're a small company. And no matter how big we get, I wanted to make it still operate like a small startup, scrappy company. We have one. Well, I help with customer service. We have another person that helps that manages like the customer support email box. I answer all the messages on Instagram myself, and Anna, our customer service manager. We're in the office together, and we're constantly talking about these issues together. She'll say, hey, I'm not sure how to answer this or deal with this. What do you think? We're passing emails around. So it's important that people get treated like people. In this day of Amazon and this day of outsourcing customer service to overseas, we feel that it's extremely important to have that unique one-on-one personal connection with people. So one, it just helps us, gather information about how to improve our own product, and to help us continue to grow. But it also helps the customer establish a good relationship with us. That it starts to have this. To me, it's customer service is almost a marketing expense. Because it's a way to establish that relationship and that brand loyalty with people. So I find it extremely important to have just that personal human connection with people.
Yeah. So you guys started in a box in Atlanta, and then you in the grid league, you got some exposure to some athletes. At what point did you guys launch your online website? And then talk to me about the growth of that. Like, as soon as you launched it, did you have orders coming in, or was it a process?
Yeah, that was exciting. 2016, May 4th, 2016. So our grips sweep around the pinky side of the hand to protect the wrist for when you're doing the false grip. Just a little added protection and comfort when you're doing strict muscle ups. And some people do a false grip with kipping muscle ups. So that was the year that Castro announced strict muscle ups and for regionals, and people were freaking out. and so Emily Bridgers, I saw her post on Instagram with just torn up wrists, both wrists, from practicing ring muscle ups, strict ring muscle ups. So I knew Emily. She was, she has CrossFit Terminus in Atlanta. So I knew her just from, before she owned that affiliate, just through the Atlanta CrossFit community. And we actually did our L1 together back in 2010. So I messaged her and I'm like, I know you don't wear grips, because she was an old gym dog, gymnast from the University of Georgia. And I know she didn't wear grips because she didn't feel like there was anything out there that was good enough that she was used to. So I was like, I know you don't wear grips, but I have something for you. I'm coming over. So I went over to her gym and showed her the grips, and she instantly was like, these feel like my old gymnastics grips. These are great. I'm gonna use them. I'm gonna start training with them. And she posted just on her own accord, not with me asking her to or paying her. She was at the top of her damn game back then. And so she posted just out of gratitude, and our orders exploded. We were like, holy cow. the power of influence in social media. So that kind of catalyzed, or kind of was the catalyst to kind of launch us a bit, gave us some momentum. That's why she became our first sponsored athlete. And we still have a great relationship with she and her husband to this day. And that's another part of the ongoing story that we have. So, that launched 2016 in May, and we've just been growing ever since.
Wow, that's crazy. So, and obviously with growth, you need the support of people. And I was watching a video about you talking about how you met a gentleman, I think his name was Kent. And
Yeah.
Kent had some Amish families that lived around him that kind of helped support in the manufacturing of these grips. Tell me a little bit about that, because I thought that was very unique in your story.
Yeah, so I was researching how to print on leather, and trying to get graphics on leather, and different capabilities I had, because I was literally cutting the grips out with scissors out of hides of leather, and then sewing them myself, the whole bit. And I knew I couldn't do that, and I was I need to had them die cut and so forth. So through that rabbit hole of research, this one company put me in touch with one of their beta testers, this guy named Kent, because he had a whole leather goods operation. He did branded collegiate leather goods up in Iowa for the various universities in the Iowa area. And he's located in Iowa, obviously. And so we had a great conversation. We instantly hit it off. He's a Army veteran. I was in the Marines, and he's very creative. And so he's like, "Let me produce these for you, and let me at least die cut them." And so that started the relationship. And then at first, he would just die cut all the materials were shipped to him. He die cut them, send them back to me. I would sit in my garage just sewing away on my little home sewing machine, and the volume was kicking my butt. And he's like, "I got this. My neighbors are Amish. They're this, and they have this whole sewing operation, and they do all this different type of work for people. And they just the Amish just so like just by reputation they have great craftsmanship. They're extremely meticulous. They're creative with what they have and what they have to deal with, and so that started that operation. So he die cuts some materials. He drives them to their home, to this community. They sew it up. He picks it back up and he ships it back to us, and we package and fulfill. Wow. So it's a really true, like just homegrown, made in the USA kind of operation, and it's very endearing. It's a lot of fun to be able to have this ecosystem within the United States of supporting various different families, providing employment within our country. And just having that made in the USA moniker is cool, because it allows us a lot of agility. It allows us quality. And there's a lot of benefits to it. There's a lot of challenges to it too. There's cost challenges. Our margins aren't as good as if we just pick stuff out of a catalog like a lot of companies do and have China sew them up. But we choose to do things more out of principle, more out of just a moral obligation and high standards.
Yeah. So tell me, where did obviously with your name being Victor, I can probably put 2 and 2 together, Victory Grips. Tell me where the name came from.
My wife named the company.
That's usually how it works. You listen to your wife.
Yeah. So my wife, Wendy, she's my business partner as well. Heck of a lot smarter than I am. Great. She has a great analytical mind. She is very meticulous. She has a very strong corporate background. She was a consultant for many years as well in the corporate sector. So without her, we would not have a business, nor would we probably be named Victory Grips. So I do business development and product development. She does operations and financials, and it works very well. But yeah, she has a good marketing brain too. So she's named not only the company Victory Grips, she's named several of our products as well. She just has a good knack for that.
Yeah, well, I love the name. And then, kind of rounding up this conversation for you, what's it like when you see that yellow V on the wrist of somebody? Because I see it all the time. Obviously, I use the grip, and ever since we partnered with you, I'm looking through the photos and past video of our competitions. I'm like, dude, everybody freaking uses these grips. But what's that like for you to see that?
The best analogy I could say is like you have a child, and that child is competing in the Olympics or at the games. You're nervous and you're proud. You're like, oh shit. There's like when I see some of these big names that are using our grips, and some of them are, not even sponsored, like Vellner. Fikowski, Medeiros. We swept the men's leaderboard this year. We had Annie on the women's side on the podium, I should say. And whenever I see it in them in those grips, or anybody for that matter, I'm like, God, I'm hoping they perform really well. And, you know, I hope, you know, that the grips are living up to their, you know, doing what they have to do. But it's also pride at the same time. So it's like this, there's this angst every time that I see when I see an athlete competing. But mostly it's just it's motivating. It's motivating for me to keep designing, keep making the grips better, and never truly be ever just complacent, because these athletes aren't complacent. I can't be complacent. So it's super exciting. To answer your question, it's super exciting to see anybody wearing the grips. I don't care if you're competing at your local throwdown, your first CrossFit competition, you got grips on, or you're just getting your first muscle up, and I see that on social media, and I'm like, yeah, that's awesome. You know, it's like I had a little bit of help with that. You know, so yeah. That's a outstanding feeling.
Yeah, well, if I can share my story. So when I first started doing CrossFit, I played collegiate football, and I've never done anything gymnastics. Well, I got like a pair of those little, I don't even know what they were called. They were like waddies or something like that. They weren't as good as Victory grips. I don't want to say anything bad, but I got a pair of your guys' grips, and I was like, oh my freaking gosh, like I'm an Olympic gymnast now with these suckers. But they're great. But so I probably know the answer to this, but when you're watching any competition, any CrossFit Games, or, you know, semifinal, big competition, and you see athletes and you see an athlete wearing a Victory grip, and then you see an athlete maybe not wearing them, I'm assuming you're always going to be rooting for that other athlete, huh? That Victory grips athlete.
Oh, of course. Yeah. 100%. 100%. You know, there's, you just see it, you know, with, you know, from season to season, you see, you know, some athletes end up wearing Nike, some athletes end up wearing Reebok. You know, they'll switch from brand to brand, and that's natural. I think that's very natural, especially as different companies come out with new innovations, or people just want to try something else. But when I see that, I take note of you know, who's not wearing the grips, and try to understand or find out why not. And just kind of understand and see what I could do to, you know, to create a product that is compelling for those other athletes to switch over. It's been interesting to see from when we first launched in 2016, we had some athletes, and then to see how that influence has grown, and see more of our yellow V on the wrist of these athletes over the years kind of expand. It's great to see. But it just shows me when people don't have our grips on, it shows me that there's just still room to grow. There's room for innovation. I got some stuff coming out this year that I'm super, super excited about, that I've been working on for a long time.
That was going to be my last question. If you can lay any hints on some, maybe the new iterations that are coming or anything like that.
Yeah. Well, you know, we got, you know, the tactical material has been awesome, but I'll be the first to admit it's not perfect. And it was good enough. I've had to learn really hard to be that nothing is going to be perfect, but if it's good enough, go for it. Put yourself out there, put it out there, get the information, get the data, get the insights. So the tactical material has been our highest seller, but it's not the best for all situations, and nor everybody. Some people need more protection, whether it be because of the disposition of their hands or the volume of training. So, and there's not a one universal grip in terms of material for people, but I'm trying to get there. I'm trying to at least, I view that as an aspirational goal, and I'm still striving for it. So to answer your question, I have something that is going to protect, that is comfortable and is grippy as hell and durable as hell. And that's the thing. That's one of the things that I'm working on really hard, because I don't want to just say, oh, I got the best grips on the planet. I want to say, I'm going to fucking prove to you what I'm going to show you the data. I want to prove it. And I want to prove it in data. And I want to say, this is why. Look at these numbers. Look at this test. Look at these metrics. You know, and this day, we've all become sophisticated as athletes. You know, we're looking, you know, we're using Whoop, you know, all those little metrics and data and information. You're taking blood samples and understanding your different levels within your blood. And why not do that with the darn equipment that you use? So I'm working on a protocol that is going to show people, you know, the coefficient of friction, grippiness, tear strength, tensile strength, abrasion resistance. I want to show like different. I have a whole design of a grip testing machine that actually tests the actual integrity, not only of the material, but of the design itself. So I want to show people that and that information. And then I want people to be like, okay, now you see this information, go and tell them and go and train and see if you see that correlation. And that's how I want to prove it. It's all, to me, it's just like, I don't want to just say, oh, I'm the best. No, you got to prove it. Because that's, you know, that's how what everybody does when they compete. You know, you can say you're a badass, but until you're on the podium, you know, or at the games, you know, you still got something to prove.
Yes. So, and it sounds like that you have that sense, that competitor's mindset in your business, and that's what's made you successful, because that's what makes anyone in business. Obviously you were a competitor, an athlete, you still are, but now you're using this grip as your way to cultivate that competitiveness. And I love it, man. I love it.
Yeah, I harness my inner Bill Bowerman. And if you don't know who that is, that was the guy, that was the mastermind behind behind Nike. You know, you had he was the coach that they turned to, that oh gosh, I'm drawing the blank of the founder of Nike. But Bill Bowerman was the track coach of Oregon, and he would play with a waffle iron with all these different, you know, make these soles of shoes to try on different track surfaces. And he applied making something ordinary, an athletic shoe, into something extraordinary. And that's what I'm trying to do with the grips. Just take ordinary grips, hand protection, and make them to something extraordinary. So I kind of harness my inner Bill Bowerman whenever I think of Victory grips.
That's fantastic. Well, Vic, I appreciate your time, man. And like I said, I appreciate you guys' support. And again, I love your product, and I can't wait to see what you guys come up with, and can't wait to see you take over the world.
I appreciate it. I really appreciate the time, and good luck with the event.